Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt
you're
you.
good. So I guess go for it. So I mean, I know you as a recording engineer. You're a guitarist too. You're a decent guitarist. I wouldn't say you're the best.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. But no, you've got a cool background.
You're a cool guy. I wouldn't say you're the best, but
Oh, damn, shots fired. But I think you've got a cool background. I mean, so you grew up in Wausau, Wisconsin. I guess jump into where you went after that.
um, where I went.
Okay, what I'm trying to allude to is you've got some really cool credits under your belt that nobody really knows about.
Okay.
So how'd you get into playing guitar professionally?
Um, playing well, I don't know if you want to call it professionally, but I I'll start at high school basically.
Okay.
So high school, I went to West here in town and played in the pop concert and all that stuff, which is kind of the local,
Hoorah.
yeah, the local cool thing. And after high school, I went to Minneapolis, and at the time, it was called Music Tech, the school that I went to.
Hmm.
And Music Tech later became McNally Smith School of Music.
Okay.
But when I was there, it had just started, and they literally accepted anybody. So you didn't really test in because they're building the place, and
Yeah.
accepting literally anyone who wanted to pay for it. So I I went to about, I want to say, 6 or 7 months of the school, and I hated it.
Hmm.
Couldn't handle it anymore. The teachers told me to quit because we were doing classes where,
This will be good.
well, we were doing classes where it was like, here's the major scale. Now learn this for this week. And
Mm.
then here's the minor pentatonic. Learn this for this week.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't anything that was challenging or it felt like I was learning anything. It was just wasting money for the most part.
Wow.
Yeah. So the instructors were awesome. I had one of my instructors was Todd DeWayne, just a freak of a guitar player, amazing guitar player. And then, oh man, I can't remember all the teachers, but awesome teachers. It's just the curriculum wasn't there, to support what I wanted to do, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in Minneapolis for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, somewhere on there. And it was at the point where I wasn't 21, so I couldn't go out to the clubs or
Mm-hmm.
hang. So it was just kind of felt like I was spinning my wheels. And yeah, hung out there for like 2 years and got in a band there, progressive metal band. We did a bunch of tour stuff like out west and
Oh wow.
Dakotas and all that fun stuff. It was called Cornerstone at first, and we had to change our name. I think there's a Christian band called Cornerstone or something like that. So we had to change our name. I forgot what we changed it to.
Was it a better name?
No, it wasn't. It was nowhere near as cool. Um. So yeah, got out of Minneapolis after about 2 years, and then moved back here to Wausau, and got in a band out of the Fox Valley area, cover band basically. So did that for a couple of years. Played a bunch of shows.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Did you do some work in Atlanta?
yeah. After the whole Fox Valley cover band thing, one of my all time favorite bands was Seven Dust
Okay.
and Stuck Mojo at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So Stuck Mojo was like I don't want to say they pioneered it, but they made like rap metal really cool. There's a black dude on fronting vocals, and it was just cool as hell, which actually kind of comes full circle. So it was Stuck Mojo and Seven Dust. Hello.
Hey, Shelby.
She's like, sorry. No, go ahead and say something. Cut. I guess she's not
Yeah,
going to
we'll
say
just
anything.
keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, initially it moved down there wanting to get in a band,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that, metal slash like kind of hardcore, but not hardcore for the time,
Yeah, of
I
course.
guess. So yeah, I moved down there with the intention of getting in a band like that, and moved down, found a place, started working at Mars Music, and started a band with a bunch of guys down there doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we did rehearsals, never played out, so it kind of never really can't talk, never really went anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was working at Mars Music, that's where I met my wife Shelby as a customer of mine.
Oh, this will be good.
Yeah. And I saw her. It was funny because the way Mars Music was organized or laid out was like a supermarket. So you had a center PA section in the
Okay.
store. You walked in from, well, we'll say you walked in from the front. It was a big center thing of a PA, and then there was a circle that went around this huge center section, and then each department branched off of that.
Okay.
So the first was like on the left-hand side as you walked in was band, and then you walked around further, then there was keyboards, then recording, then guitar. I was in recording. And I could see the front door from, this is probably 150 feet away. Maybe not quite that much, maybe 100 feet away.
Okay.
And I could see the front door, and as people walked in, I could see who was walking in. And I saw her walk in one day, and it was with her boyfriend at the time.
Oh, you dirty dog.
Yeah. So I saw her walk in, and it was kind of far away. So I could make the outline of her. I'm like, to my manager at the time, JP Pryor, which is awesome guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned to him, I was like, I'm going to marry her. First time I saw her from 120 feet away.
You're kidding.
Nope. And sure enough, ended up marrying her. But yeah, so we ended up, her boyfriend at the time, who's actually, we still talk. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Okay.
He recommended her to work with me.
Huh.
Because she had bought equipment from me, and just kind of hung out at the store, and that was kind of where everyone hung out,
Mm-hmm.
And she always wanted to go to I forgot what the guy's name was. Maybe it was my manager. It might have been him, but she always wanted to go with a different guy to work with, for songwriting and stuff. And her boyfriend kept saying, "No, work with Marty. Work with the white guy."
No shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. So yeah, we ended up probably for a good solid year just writing and recording a little 1680 VSA 1680 rolling piece, old school.
Of course.
As you're grinning.
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't even recognize it. That must mean it's pretty damn old.
Really?
Oh yeah.
The VS 1680 is probably as old as you are.
Probably.
Yeah. One of the first digital,
Just so you know, Marty,
workstations.
those gray hairs are really starting to come out now.
Representing.
There you go.
But yeah, so we started recording, and wrote and recorded, I want to say like 20 some songs. And it was, we weren't really supporting it. It was just recording it, and then people that would come in the store would hear it, and they'd be all, because working at a joint like that, you have all the monitors that you can play back stuff on, and whatever. So yeah, ended up doing that, and we didn't support it at all as far as like go out and play gigs or try to shop it anywhere. But through the store, through Mars Music, I had met so many people, and just, you always hand things off to people and say, check this out, kind of thing. So a good friend of mine who became a good friend of mine was Charles Lindsay, and he absolutely loved our stuff. And he was always going back and forth to like LA and New York just to chum with people, I don't know how much he really did as far as placing, music or whatever, but he was always somewhere.
Yeah.
Being busy. And he he somehow ran into Timbaland at, I want to say it was either LAX or I think it was LAX. He ran into him just in the terminal and insisted he didn't know Timbaland at all, but he insisted, listen to this. Well, naturally, Tim probably gets 1,000 CDs a week from people.
Yeah.
CDs at the time,
Oh, I do remember those.
Yeah, you do remember. Yeah, and he insisted that Tim take it. Well, Tim took it, and Timbaland's with his entourage at the time, and they all kind of get in the limo in their little motorcade or whatever you want to call it, and Timbaland later told me this story that they got in the limo and he had reached in his bag or maybe in his pocket or something like that and grabbed the CD and told his crew, they're like, you want to have a good laugh, not knowing what was on the CD because he gets so many of them. Well, they popped it in the stereo and I guess all of them were just jamming to it. And they all fell in love with it. Yeah. So that's kind of the start of music at a higher level, I guess, if you want to call it that. But
so what happened after that?
literally within, I would say within a week and a half to 2 weeks, Timbaland flew us up to New York at Manhattan Center, and just to hang, to chill, to kind of woo us, red carpet treatment everywhere, that kind of thing. So, yeah, we just hung out for, I think we were in Manhattan for like a week or week and a half, just hanging out in the studio and whatever, and talking deals and all that stuff. And literally within, I want to say a month, we had a full contract waiting for us.
Wow.
Freaking that thick of stuff. So we had to get attorneys, all that stuff. Yeah.
So what normally happens? Because that's not a typical story.
No, it's not. I don't know what normally happens, honestly. Because, yeah, it's
there's a lot.
The amount of support and just access that we had was not like what other people get.
Yeah.
And because Timbaland was on fire for us. And at the time he was the top grossing producer in the world. And no one could touch him. Whatever.
Explain what a producer is too, just for people that don't know.
Well, everyone's got different definitions of it.
I know.
You know what I mean?
A producer's not the artist. There's somebody that helps the artist out either in the studio or to songwriting capacity, or it varies.
Yeah, a producer can be anything from a person that is the end all be all, that all decisions are made with them. You have the executive producer, the one who puts all the money, towards the project. And there's some producers that all they do is show up and say yeah and no. That's
it. Yeah, but a lot of it comes down to they can make or break whatever songs.
They can totally.
Like Ryan Tedder and One Republic, great example of Timbaland. He had their career hanging in his hands. At least the way that I heard the story is he's like, well, he technically could have grabbed the publishing from him. There's nothing they could have done at the time. And ended up giving him the publishing and said, listen, I don't want a dime from this. And a lot of times, like, who's the guy with the long hair? Rick Rubin.
Oh, yeah.
He goes in, he doesn't know how to play an instrument.
Right.
Doesn't know how to work on anything in a studio.
Yeah.
But what he gets paid for at the end of the day is just his opinion on, here's what sounds good, here's what doesn't sound good. You have to take it like this. And he knows how to work the people to get the different things out of them, which sometimes that's what you need.
Well, and, the aspect of producer for me has been, like you said, it's been a bunch of different things. In the studio here, I could act as producer on a record where I have to literally find every person to play the instrument, or I have to make all those kind of decisions, or I can be the one that's the total dick in the session. If a person comes up with an idea, no, you try to be a little more politically correct.
You asshole.
Right? But it can be that too. It can be babysitting. It can be anything. So, and you it's so hard to put a label on it, but a lot of people will think that the producer is the one who does everything, like writes the track and does all that. It depends on which genre of music you're into,
Of course.
you know. But like in the hip hop genre, a lot of the producers are going to be the beat makers.
Mm-hmm.
In metal, the producers may be just what we talked about, you know. So it can be totally different from genre to genre.
Yeah.
For me, it's mostly saying yes and no,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the whole vision is really kind of with the producer.
I agree, and I think
Yeah.
that's one thing. It's kind. I mean, it applies to business too. If anything you're good at, there's certain people that go down a rabbit hole, and I think it's Tony Robbins or something that talks about there's 3 different kinds of people. There's the entrepreneur, there's the manager, and there's the creative or the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very similar in the studio because I look at how many. I used to work with Nolan Neal a little bit in Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
and Nolan, hell of a guy, absolutely fantastic at what he did. And a lot of it just took an outside perspective of somebody that wasn't looking at it as a musician or as the artist to say, yeah, you got to change this, you got to change that around. And I didn't know it was going to happen the first time I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I found I liked doing that kind of production because it was like, I'm not the best at writing songs, but when it comes to doing something like that, Nolan would be like, yeah, what do you think of this track? I'm like, well, you got to change this, you got to change that around. I said, this doesn't make sense. I said, save that for live, do this in the studio. And he'd re-record it and be like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Right.
I mean, but that's fun though, because like once you find somebody that is really good at what they do, and you find the right person that can hone that,
Mm-hmm.
whether it be in music, in business, or anything else, it's very the results are remarkable.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing too, is that producer can also be responsible, and usually is responsible for getting the best performance out of whoever they're producing, you know. So yeah, and I think Rick Rubin is a perfect example of that,
Oh yeah.
because I mean, it's not like he can go to a person and say, no, play this,
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't know how to play it.
Yeah.
He's got to communicate that to whoever he's
Oh,
working
absolutely.
with.
What I thought was cool about him was I was listening to him talk about the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Was that the album?
I'm not a Chili Peppers fan, so.
Oh, go figure. It says a lot about you. But no, he goes in there and he's like, and that was when they were doing like all the like funk, like overdriven, like the real wacky stuff. It was nothing under the bridge or anything else like that. And I think it's cool how he said, you know, you guys can take and do it like this, and here's how to get your branding on point.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of weird when you see these guys jump industries. Because it's like if a chef jumps in and says, I'm gonna be your accountant now. You're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And for them it was like we're super funky, like crazy band that would just do crazy stuff on stage over to Under the Bridge. And it's like,
Right.
for people that's just a very drastic twist, as it would be in anything.
Right.
And it's cool. If it weren't for him, they wouldn't have been able to do a smooth transition
Right.
to that. And now the way that he phrased it, they can do anything,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of the music they've done, it spans across funk, rock, pop,
Sure.
soft rock.
Sure.
They haven't done a country album yet, but
there's still time.
exactly. So you go from, you sign the contract with Timbaland. What happens?
A lot, actually.
Okay. Lay it on me, Chief.
I mean, where do you want me to start? Because there's so much. It's all kind of intertwined. I don't know where to start.
Okay, so you sign the contract with Timbaland.
Mm-hmm. Well,
You move from Atlanta. Are you sticking in Atlanta?
yeah, we stay in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I have to. Speaking of producing and whatnot, so there's at the time, you know, there's a certain way of going about things, and when it was just Shelby and I, it was just a solo. You know, I was the producer, she was the artist. Well, now that you're dealing with big money, you have to develop, or you have to make a company, and that company's got to sign with Timbaland, and Timbaland signs the company with Interscope, and you know, all that stuff. So basically, what we had to do is make a production company, and we actually did Opal Entertainment Group, who was myself, Charles Lindsay, who got us, you know, the exposure, and Louis Haravo, phenomenal piano player, just a ridiculous piano guy from Atlanta. So we all made a partnership together, and that partnership signed Shelby to the business, and then we had I'm trying to think of all these artists. This was years ago. The Unabomber, who actually signed a single deal with Universal.
Wait, you're talking like the Unabomber.
The rap guy,
Oh,
the Unabomber, Uni.
okay.
Yeah,
That makes
and
more
then,
sense.
And then we also had another guy, Oowee, who actually did stuff with Snoop Dogg, who's now in jail, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. I think he's in prison for murder, I think.
Was he nice? Did you meet him?
Yeah, we did records with him.
He was a nice guy.
Oh, awesome guy.
Okay.
Yeah, Oowee was the shit, man. He was so much fun. And at the time he was 16 years old.
Really?
Talking like big boy stuff in his raps, but the kid could write, dude, and he was phenomenal. Probably look it up. Well, I'm sure there's stuff on YouTube, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we had a bunch of artists, on that label. Our label signed with Timbaland, so all the stuff. Actually, those guys didn't go through Timbaland. It was just Shelby. But Opal was basically a one deep of Timbaland's label, and then Timbaland's label was a one deep of Interscope. Interscope was a one deep of Universal. So it's like this,
And for people that don't know, explain the record industry and how they're all owned by the same people.
Yeah, you pretty much have
As soon as you get some sort of notoriety, you become a subsidiary.
right.
More or
Exactly.
less.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you have Universal Music Group, which is at the time was Interscope, A&M, and Elektra, was it? I can't remember. Yeah, I don't remember. But Interscope was who we were working with under Universal. And that was the cool thing, is that because Timbaland was a direct one deep of Interscope, we had access to everyone in Interscope and Universal. So as soon as we signed the deal, we would be flown out to LA and meet with Jimmy Iovine and Ron Fair and everyone in A&R, everyone in marketing. So when we had a meeting, it wasn't like you'd sit down with an A&R guy. You sat down with Jimmy and the heavy hitters at a table in the office with 20 of the heads from every department. So, I mean,
wow.
Yeah. And I remember specifically, now we had the VS 1680 recordings, and they were good. They were cool. It was groovy.
I'm sure.
People loved it. And Jimmy, in his Brooklyn accent, he says, "Marty, we want to put the CD out now." And I'm a punk kid, my first foray into this, that I want to make a statement. I'm like, give me a budget to re-record this stuff and put it out the right way. He's like, okay. And I'm like, wow. Right. So they give me a very, very substantial budget, basically at the time, a limitless budget. And
so you had as much money as you wanted to go into the studio.
For the most part. Yeah.
Okay.
Because of Timbaland. I mean, if this wasn't dealing with Timbaland, we wouldn't have had that kind of pull.
Yeah.
So we got the budget and we got the time to do it, and it was awesome. Well, now there's I don't know if I should mention this in this interview, but we'll wait.
Okay.
So yeah, we get the kind of carte blanche for whatever we wanted to do with the record, because they have faith in it. And at the time, you had Sheryl Crow coming out on Interscope. You had Ron Fair was coming out with Vanessa Carlton. Remember her?
Oh yeah.
1,000 Miles, great song. So you had all these people, females, coming out.
Yeah.
In the same camp or on the same time. Dido was out then with Eminem. And I think that was one of the reasons why Timbaland was so hot on it, because I don't know this for sure, but it kind of seemed like he needed a Dido like Eminem had. Are you familiar with Dido at all?
No.
Really, really popular in the early 2000s. It was kind of like a mixture of singer-songwriter folky stuff, maybe mixed with hip-hop, with like lo-fi jams.
Okay.
It's cool. It was way cool.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And that's what we were doing. But we were doing it kind of at the same time. And
so who was rapping? You or Shelby?
Nobody was rapping. It was just the production aspect was more lo-fi. You know what I mean?
You're disappointing me, Marty.
Yeah, no, I don't do that.
Like to see you put a bandana on and start.
Right, all gangsta.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we were doing that, and we had carte blanche with it. Well, during that time, it was about 6 months where we had the budget, we had the people behind us, whatever we wanted, we could do,
Mm-hmm.
and more people wanted to get involved in it.
Oh.
Right. So the buzz was around the office, around the industry, that this new girl was coming out with Timbaland. It was going to be the next hottest thing. Well, people see that and they're like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they want to part in it. And without saying any names, some people got a hold of it, and I remember being, I have to involve this because it's such a big part of the
Come on.
of the story. Well, okay,
Bring it on.
so we'll stop there with that. Well, we'll come back to it for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Just making sure.
So while I was working at Mars Music,
Wait, throughout this, you're still working at Mars Music.
kind of,
Okay.
this is all intertwined.
Okay.
So while I was working at Mars Music,
After the contract or prior?
prior,
Okay.
I remember the whole thing. You could see people walk in from the front door. So me and my manager JP were at the counter in the recording department, and we see this guy walk in, long trench coat, glasses, slicked back hair. And we're like, who the F is this guy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just his whole aura when he walked in the store was just that of like, I'm the shit. You know?
Yeah.
And he comes to the recording department. Well, I'll call the guy Scott. Okay, that's his name. I won't say last name.
Okay.
So Scott comes in, introduces himself as this big audio guy / computer guy, and this is like 22. This is the year 2000.
Okay.
And at the time, you know, internet is just kind of getting going to where it's somewhat affordable. You're on dial-up, but you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes in and he buys like $60K worth of gear from me. And this is in 2000, right?
Were you making commission on that?
No. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So buys like 60 grand worth of stuff. And this is like everything from like PCM 91s to you know, JBL monitors to Avalon Pre's. I mean, anything you can think of. He's
Top-notch reverbs, preamps, everything.
Yeah. So he's just basically big shopping cart, drops cash on it. I'm like,
Wow.
okay. Well, I mean, we're in Atlanta, right? So you never know.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, I mean, the stars would come in the store all the time. So we had a lot of people just like you with Sweetwater, you know, people in the industry that you dealt with, you know.
Of course.
So I didn't know who this guy was. I was like, what the F is going on here, you know? Well, a couple weeks goes by and he comes in again and drops another like 40K on gear. I'm like, what the F is going on? This is weird, you know? People just don't do that.
Yeah.
And I think he bought like maybe like an Elam something 251, or I can't remember what it was, but
$12,000 microphone.
yeah, right. So naturally I kind of ask him, I'm like, so what, you know, explain this to me. You're coming in here. I don't know who you are. You're buying all this gear. What's your story? Well, it turns out he's the CEO of a huge computer hardware company out of Atlanta. And he used to do music back in the day, but now that he's got some money coming in, he's rebuying a bunch of gear for his studio in his house, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, cool. Have me out anytime you want. I'd love to check it out. Well, I go out there, you know, after several weeks or whatever, and it's this huge freaking mansion on Lake Lanier. Drives around in a Bentley. He's got a Ferrari. Bentley Arnage, by the way, at the time was a cat's ass vehicle. He had me pick it up in Florida for him.
Oh, no kids.
Yeah.
You just drove it back to Atlanta?
Yeah, my cousin took it up from Miami, and then we took it in after Atlanta. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, just
You
ridiculous.
lucky son of a gun.
Oh yeah, it's like riding an airplane on the road. And so I show up there, and he's got an SSL 4064G
Mhm.
in his basement. I'm like, what the hell? So
Was it the 8K or the 4K that was named the Hitmaker?
it was the 4K.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had can't remember the history of the console, but it was out of some big studio. It had tons of records put on it. So I'm just naturally with something like that happening, you're just kind of want to find out more,
Mhm.
kind of hang around the dude. Well, we became huge, like super tight friends. He would pick me up and he'd come to Mars Music and he'd say, "Dude, take off for the rest of the day." I'm like, "Well, why? What's going on?" He says, "Let's just go." We'd get in the Bentley and we'd go down to a strip bar, and he dropped 30K at the strip bar.
A strip club.
Yeah. One time we did he picked me up from the house. You remember Kilo? He was I want to say he was a middle heavyweight boxer around that time, so early 2000s. He was a champion.
Can't say I remember him.
I want to say that was his name, Kilo.
Okay.
But it was his birthday, and Scott knew him really well, I guess. And he picked me up and he says, "We're going to I think it was Tattletales." Yeah, Tattletales, I think it was.
Strip club?
Strip club.
Okay.
For his party. And he literally and this dude literally shut down Tattletales on a Friday night so we could have Tattletales all to ourselves.
You and him.
And Kilo and a couple other friends and all the dancers.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just crazy. I mean, silly amounts of money being thrown around.
Yeah.
So that's going on while this whole record deal is going on, right?
Oh, that's in the middle of.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's involved in music and wants to get back involved in it. Well, during the 6 months that I have this new budget with Interscope, I'm re-recording all the stuff at my house. And then occasionally we'll go to Tree Sound or, whatever to cut a drum track or, whatever. Well, Scott wants to become involved with the record in any way he can just to have his name on it. He loves the project. He's super into us as friends. And at the time, just a good dude. I mean, we became really good friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it'd be awesome to have you involved. If you can get your name on a major release, that's awesome. Let's both do it. So he's got the SSL downstairs. At the time I'm on, what am I on? Like the Mackie HDR 2496s or something like that I was recording with. I can't remember. Yeah. No, you know what? I was on Pro Tools. That's right when I first got into Pro Tools.
Good for you.
Yeah. But before that, I was on the HDRs. Which were actually a pretty cool piece for the time. But so I had everything in Pro Tools, and at this time I was starting to mix it. And Scott was like, "Well, bring it down to the studio. We'll throw it on the SSL, put it on 2-inch, and we'll mix it there as well." And I was like, "Cool." So I went to the label. I said, "Well, we're doing mixes right now. I'll submit them for approval or whatever, and I'm telling Scott that I have to submit these mixes, but I'll kind of mix his in there with them. And if they like his, great. But I'm not going to say to the label that he's mixing this and I'm mixing it. You guys can pick which one you want, that kind of thing." Well, they didn't pick his mixes. They didn't like them. So, whatever. That's fine. So that's kind of intertwined in this, right?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. I'm trying to think. I don't want to confuse the story here. Okay. So we're submitting mixes, and without a dollar amount, we'll just say a lot of freaking money. I submit mixes to Interscope. They get approved. Ivy Scoff at the time was the financial lady, whatever, with Interscope. I send a bill to her for my time,
Mm-hmm.
incidentals, all the stuff that's related to it. And she gets the bill and she sends me the money. A huge check. Arrived on my front door in 2 days, no questions asked. And it was legit. I wasn't trying to screw anybody.
Yeah.
I was like, nice, we're getting paid for this. So we're getting per diem from the label. We're getting this stuff. I mean, life is good. Well, that's the first batch. That's like the recording, because we're starting to mix it. That's the recording, some of the mix. Well, we have still a lot more stuff to do. I submit the final bill, and Ivy, this is like, I want to say like 3 months later or whatever. Ivy calls me. She says, Marty, what the hell is this? Like, what are you talking about? She says, I have a bill here for insert dollar amount. We can't just pay this out to you. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is what we've done in the past. This is what you asked me to do. She says, yeah, but in that time, there's been some weird stuff happening in the label with other artists and whatnot. So we need to find a way to bill this not through you, because it just looks bad. It's your artist. It's your production label. This is all you, and you're billing for your artist, and it just looks weird. I'm like,
Your
okay.
artist being Shelby.
Right.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, well, there's Scott, my buddy, who's got the mansion and the Bentleys and all this stuff in on Lake Lanier.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a studio. He's got an LLC. I can just have him bill, my studio time out to them, and I'll take care of his tax event, and all will be good. Well, he does that. He bills Interscope, sends him the bill, and remember, Interscope always paid within 2 days. It was FedExed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he sends the bill out. I talked to Ivy. She says, yeah, I got it. I'll get it out to you right away. 2 or 3 days goes by and still no check. A week goes by, still no check. A week and a half goes by, still no check. So I call Scott, because it's going to be sent to him.
Yeah.
I call Scott. I'm like, dude, where's the check? He says, I haven't gotten it. Weird. Call Ivy again. Yeah, we sent it out like the day after you gave me the invoice. It's been delivered. So I called Scott back. I was like, dude, they said it's been delivered. What's the deal? He said, that's not your money. That's my money. I'm like, what?
Can you give a rough ballpark of the dollar figure?
No.
Okay. You suck.
It's a lot of money.
Okay.
Lot of money. He says, that's not your money. That's my money. That was billed out from my studio. So, yeah, you're not getting it. I'm like, you motherfucker. So at that point, my world, because keep in mind, we were getting this money from the label. We were getting per diem of a lot of money just to meet our living expenses and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And all while this is so intertwined, I don't want to make it confusing, but all while this is happening, remember, all these people want their hands in the pie.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I remember being at Scott's house. This is also intertwined with this, out by the pool, and Jimmy Iovine calls me, and he says, Marty, send me the reels for Lose Your Love. And Lose Your Love was the single that we were going to release. And I was like, well, why do you want me to send me the reels? Or why do you want me to send you the reels? He's like, we want to put live drums on it. Like, okay, well, how about I put live drums on it, and I'll send it back and, see if you like it. So I did that. Sent him a mix of live drums, and they loved it. Well, then all of a sudden, Ron Fair calls me. I'm like, well, why is this guy's with A&M? He has nothing to do with any of this record.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, he's wanting a portion of what I'm doing with Shelby. It's just all these people started getting involved. So it's just a conundrum of shit, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at some point, I lost my shit. I remember being at the pool, and I was like, I'm not sending you guys this stuff. This is my record. I'm telling these people the way things are going to be, which was dumb, of course.
Yeah.
But I'm a punk at the time, I know the world better than they do, So
Sure.
So I basically, without telling too much of it, I pissed some people off. I told them the way I felt. Well, at that point, things started to kind of fall apart, because I don't want to say they knew they couldn't take advantage of me, but I wouldn't let it happen. I wouldn't let them take what I worked so hard on and make it them,
split it up and put it in a shit ton of bureaucracy.
Right, exactly. So while all that's happening, I'm trying to bill all this stuff out to get paid for the work that I've done, and that check goes to Scott. He doesn't have it, supposedly. Well, he's lying to me, and he's lying to me while he's in, where was he at? Puerto Rico. And basically stole the money from me. That money that we had was that money that was coming in from mix and tracking stuff was the balloon payment on our house that we had been making payments on from per diem this whole time. So we have a beautiful house up off of Lake Lanier near this guy's place, and we lose everything because he ripped us off. We lose the house, we lose the studio in the house, we lose everything. And that's pretty much where it ends right there. You have to ask me questions beyond that because there's so much shit, dude. It's not even funny.
So what happens after that? You guys lose everything. The whole the label that you guys are with, that whole relationship's fractured.
It's fractured, but on paper it's the same, because we signed it was a 6-term, either a 6 or 7-term deal. Each term consisting of like a up to a year and a half per term or per record. So it was basically like a 10-year deal for the most part.
Okay.
And excuse me. And basically we recorded the record, but because it never came out, I don't know legally how they do this, but it
got shelved.
For the most part, yeah, it got shelved, and we didn't go because that one didn't come out. We weren't obliged or obligated to do the consecutive ones, although we were still tied to them. So they paid for the masters. They paid for all of it. It was that product was theirs. They owned it. They paid for it. So in order for us to redo it or whatever, we'd have to, re-record everything and put it out ourselves. So we just kind of
at the time it wasn't as easy as buying a cheap interface online or something.
Right. I mean, it was definitely more accessible, than in the past. But yeah, it's at that point we were so immersed in it all the time that when it all fell apart, we lost everything, moved back up here. It was like, we're not doing music ever again. I literally had all my stuff from the studio in storage. I was like, I'm not doing this. Fuck this. It was ridiculous, because it was so stressful.
So in the middle of this, when did you get the Snoop Dogg creds and the other credits that you have to your name? Because you've got some, like Lee Brice, I think is one of them.
Lee Brice, I mixed live.
Okay.
That wasn't studio. When I came back here, my parents helped me out tremendously, Shelby and I both, with getting kind of reestablished. We had lost everything and got into the PA game. I mean, we built the studio here after a couple of years of being here, after kind of things settled down or whatever. But at the same time, started getting into live audio, and I provided live audio for a lot of the acts that would come through here. So it was like Lee Brice and Luke Bryan, Eric Church, a lot of the big upcoming country guys, that came through this way. I would provide production for. So that's really the connection there. Snoop Dogg was indirect because Oowee, the rapper that's in jail, he did he ended up signing to Snoop Dogg's label, but that had happened after we moved back up here. I think it happened after we moved back up here because Opal was still doing, not really doing business, but still kind of operating with artists. And that's when Uni had signed a single deal with Universal. I'm trying to think. I can't. It's been so long. I can't remember names. It's awful.
No, you're good.
But yeah,
I mean, it's crazy though because you see a lot of this, and I mean, it's very prominent.
Oh,
go for
that's what I was gonna go with. Sorry, there was a tie back.
Okay.
So, yeah,
this will be good.
no. So remember, I moved down to Atlanta wanting to not really mimic, but get in a band like Stuck Mojo or Seven Dust. Well, I had met Clint Laurie from Seven Dust, which was really cool. It was like an iconic thing for me to meet him. But when I was good friends with Scott, the guy at the studio up at Lake Lanier, for some reason, I have no idea how, but he got involved with Bonz from Stuck Mojo, the singer for Stuck Mojo, or the rapper.
Okay.
And Bonz, awesome guy. Guy's just, he's awesome. Well, we ended up cutting a record with Bonz with 420 Monks, a band aside from Stuck Mojo. That's the whole tie back to that, which was really cool because Bonz and I became good friends. And I ended up moving down there because I wanted to be in a band like his. You know?
So you tried emulating him in Minneapolis, go down to Atlanta, and you're hanging with him.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that was the tie back. Yeah,
it's a pretty cool tie back.
It is.
I thought it was gonna be something boring or lame.
No, it's cool. And yeah, and 420 Monks, it's like kind of like stoner rap metal.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Stoner rap metal.
Yeah, well, 420 Monks,
I guess, yeah, what else would you expect?
Right. Yeah, Bonz was the shit. He was fun.
Man, so you come back to Wisconsin after how many years?
I was only in Atlanta 4 years.
That's an eventful 4 years.
Yeah.
So
maybe less, maybe 3 years. I can't remember.
So you come back to Wisconsin, you start doing live sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how long did it take you to get back up and rocking? Because, I mean, at least as far as I know, you're one of the most successful guys around, even in that scene, as big as it is in Wisconsin.
Huge in Wisconsin.
Yeah, massive, man.
Honestly, I stay around here, around Wausau, which is small. I mean, it's easy to pick up all the gigs, and I don't want to say I'm picking up all the gigs because I'm not, but pick up gigs in Wausau because there's not many people doing it,
Yeah, but across the, I mean, I'd agree with you if I didn't know that across the state, I mean, everybody's like, yeah, Marty's the...
Really?
Oh, big time. Like, I didn't quite understand it. I remember when, like, there was like a reverence surrounding your name for the longest time. It was super weird.
So weird.
It was bizarre because I used to work at the local music store, and I remember.
Oh, at Jerry's.
Yeah. Before I left there on rocky terms, I haven't been there since.
Really?
Oh, really? Yeah, I do not personally support them. Yeah, I can't say much.
You actually worked there though, right?
Yeah, I worked at Jerry's. But I'm not going to go into details just because otherwise it's going to be considered.
Come on, I spilled my guts here, man.
Nah,
Can I vape in here during the interview?
I don't care. Just don't do it into my mics. But
are these that cool mics?
Nah, I can always buy another.
You got hookups, man.
Yeah, I know a guy, I think. But no, I used to. So when I was working at Jerry's, it was always crazy because you'd come up, like, it was you and then Tim Yernig and who's the amp guy?
Andy Zinda?
Andy Zinda.
Yeah, he's a monster, dude.
Oh, that's what everyone tells me.
Shit, dude.
I met the guy a couple times, and it's like, and then Tim Yernig, because he owned Yernig Pedal Company, who did a lot of work with Greg Koch and that other guy that's currently on tour with.
Excuse me.
He's out of LA. He's currently on tour with Alan Parsons.
I don't know.
I forget the guy's name. Blonde hair. Looks a lot like my buddy Lance. But
I don't know. Now,
essentially, people would, like, you were the guy, like, anybody's like, oh, yeah, we need a live sound guy. We need a art. We need a recording studio, anything like that. Because, I mean, yeah, Wisconsin doesn't really have too much. Once you get up into the UP, you've got a couple studios that are actually really good.
In the UP, really?
Oh, yeah, there's one, Gavin Haverstick out of Indiana. Awesome guy, one of the smartest guys you'll meet when it comes to acoustics.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up building out the studio for him, and it was Sue Studio, I think the name of it.
Sue Studio.
Yeah, I know, right?
Nice.
Little Phil Collins.
Huh. Where's that at?
I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's up in the UP, and it's in Michigan.
Well, Michigan and the UP are different.
I'm pretty sure it's northern Michigan. UP.
Wow.
But it's
Okay.
that one's got like an API console. It's a really beautiful
In
place.
the UP?
Same thing I said. Same thing I said.
And you don't know where?
I'll have to look it up. It's on a map. I remember looking at it. I'm pretty sure it was the UP because I looked at it and I had the same reaction. I'm like, somebody put a professional recording studio up in the UP.
Wow.
But I mean, the way that it goes is a recording studio. You've got that up in the UP, which I'm not sure how big the market is in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. Most of the places don't even have a Walmart, McDonald's, or Wi-Fi.
Right. Or Wi-Fi. That's
so
funny.
living back in the dark ages.
Yeah.
And then Milwaukee, you got a pretty cool music scene, but Milwaukee's so close to Chicago that there's just, I mean, you just go over the border and there's a lot more going on.
Sure.
So, I mean, you're kind of holding down the fort for central Wisconsin. There's a couple people doing it, but there's nobody that's done it at least to the extent that you have.
Yeah.
Because you've got a beautiful place. We're in your live room right now. I mean, your console's a little suspect, but
It's a big old mouse.
it is. It's pretty lame.
Yeah.
Nothing against you. Actually,
everything against my console is what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's it's a professional setup. If you walked in here, you could actually do something that without traveling out to LA, because of course, I mean, times have changed. Back when you were talking, a lot of the devices that I've personally never used, some I've never heard of, was a totally different era. Recording was much more of an art. It was much harder to learn.
Right.
At least from my perspective.
Yeah.
And then nowadays, there's so much out there. It's so accessible to people.
Oh yeah, big time.
But there's still a level of, like, there's that next level. Like, you start with just getting a basic setup from Sweetwater, Guitar Center, something like that.
Yeah.
Had to drop both those names in there.
Right.
And now, the next level up is having the $50,000 to $60,000 worth of gear.
Right.
Which is, I mean, you're kind of holding on the fort for that in Wisconsin, at least in my opinion.
You know, honestly, I think it's so accessible gear wise, because plugins can do a lot of really cool things.
Okay.
Whether it's I'm talking like Tune Track drummer.
Oh, okay.
Easy drummer, easy keys, stuff like that.
Things to recreate a real drummer or a keyboard player.
I mean, it's pretty freaking convincing.
Yeah.
There's aspects, but there's nothing like a live kit.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like a live kit, and you need the room to do it. You got to have a decent room. You can't cut a really nice sounding acoustic guitar or a really nice sounding vocal or a really nice sounding acoustic kit in a shitty room. You just can't. I'm not saying this is the greatest room in the world, but it's way better than a box.
Oh, absolutely. But the thing is that people don't get is it's even like a conference room.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at how many conference rooms you're in, and you got to yell across the table,
right?
Or you got to yell to the person next to you because it's just so loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that gets confused is, it is something to the room, but people can apply a lot of these concepts outside of that to, like, a conference room. You walk in there. I was privileged enough at Sweetwater that they had conference rooms and things that were treated.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk in there, you're working or you're talking to people. It's very easy to hear. The person at the front can just speak to you. They don't have to be yelling at you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super easy, super comfortable. And then you come back to Wisconsin and it's like a lot of those practices haven't been adopted yet. So you go in there and, like, we're having a conversation right now and it's super easy to talk.
All right.
You go into one of these conference rooms and it's like, okay.
The reverb tail happens. It stops
Eesh.
At the end of your sentence from the beginning of your sentence. Well, that's like what we're doing at Expo.
Okay.
I'm trying to fix that room because it's brutal.
I could see that. It's just a wide open space.
It's awful. I mean, like, you have, even like we'll do conferences there, a big like SWIMA conference or whatever. And you have a speaker on stage, and granted, even with all those people in there, it kind of absorbs a little bit, but there's a freaking 4-second decay time in that room. It's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that.
It's insane because people don't understand. It comes down to phase cancellation.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
Absolutely awful.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just confusing. You like you said, you have to yell to the person or
Mm-hmm.
struggle extremely hard to understand anything.
Because you only hear half of what happens because the rest of it just cancels out.
Oh yeah.
So like you say the word the and you're only hearing the T and the E.
Right. In essence, yeah.
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 I mean, what shocks me though is so most of your projects, they aren't even in the they aren't in the music industry. I mean, when it comes down to your installs and things.
Well, it depends. My year, I look at my business as a year.
Okay.
Okay. My January through, well, no, we'll start with summer. We'll start with my June through, we'll say September, is all live performance. I don't do anything in the studio at all. I want to be outside in the sun and hanging, and I don't want to be inside behind a computer screen. So everything in that time frame will be either live performance, providing production for somebody, or like graduations and stuff like that, hanging hanging speakers and truss and all that stuff outside. So then once you get into October, then that gets me back in here, but I don't really start recording until like November, December.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just always the way it works out. But like installs and stuff like that are starting to happen at that point because you don't want to be inside during the summer. I live my life by that, man. I cannot stand being inside in the summer. And then it's pretty much balls to the walls recording from January until about May. And then repeat.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean some of those installs though. It's interesting some of the ones that you hear about and you see because it's just not your typical stuff that you think about.
No. And it's always different too. It's cool because a lot of people are becoming aware of acoustics. At least it seems that way. In these larger rooms, they're like,
yeah.
I work with Kent down at Soundworks, and he does a lot of making people aware of that. You know what I mean? Because that's where it starts.
Yeah.
You got to have a decent sounding room.
Mm-hmm.
Anything beyond that, you can put the best PA in the world in there. It's never going to fix it.
Yeah.
So,
or even just ceiling speakers playing elevator music.
Yeah, it's just awful. So,
because I know that's one thing. I remember I was building out a podcast space for my mom, and I'm like, listen, I said I've got an extra. I'm a dealer for Prime Acoustic. Love their products. They've always been good. I had a leftover set after moving back from Indiana, and I'm like, Mom, you already have a podcast, you and your life, and I said, let's do a room for it. She's already got microphones. She's already got the audio systems. We've got some video stuff. I said, you just got to take it up a notch. She's like, I don't know. She's like, okay, I'll try it. And she's like, we don't really need that. I said, no. I put up this London room kit, and it's a budget kit. I mean, it's not something you're going to pay $5,000 for a room. It's like $1,000 to $2,000.
Yeah.
Put it up in the room, and now her and my dad will go into this room anytime that they just want to talk.
Right.
Because it's more comfortable. It's easier to, like, it sounds like the voice you're saying, like, even in this room, even when you say it, the voice is in your head talking out as opposed to like feeling like the words are just escaping you.
Yeah, that's awesome. You go in that room, I got a Helmholtz resonator in there that it's creepy because there's no boominess in the room.
Is that the active subwoofer?
No, it's just a passive radiating, or not passive radiating, but a passive resonator. You don't know what a Helmholtz resonator is? Slat resonator? Really? Tony.
Is it like diffusion?
Tony.
Okay.
No, it's basically just a box, a corner box. Like say this corner right here, if we did a 45, at the corner,
Yeah.
and you put just slats of wood going
Oh.
across at various thicknesses, various spaces. And then there's absorption behind it. Well, it takes those frequencies and excites them and then absorbs them and, all that stuff.
I always just put that under diffusion. I mean,
suppose.
kinda. It's like a little bit of both.
Yeah. But that room is crazy. Like,
No kidding.
I don't want to call it flat, but it's not, it's alive, but it's doesn't get any boom in it whatsoever. It's just awesome. It's weird.
No shit.
Yeah. The acoustics in that room sound phenomenal.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
So I guess so coming back though, did you have the passion?
What do you mean?
Did you because you were passionate about music, you go down to Atlanta for it, you moved to Minneapolis for it, you do it all over Wisconsin. How long did it take for you to actually get it back?
Once I moved back?
Yeah.
Probably a couple of years. I want to say I moved back it was right after 9/11. So it was 2001. I was back here in mid 2002, I want to say. And then we built this. I want to say we completed this at end of 04.
Okay.
Or mid 04. But building this, it took me close to a year to build it. So it was like,
oh wow,
it was the anticipation caught up with me, So it was around then that I kind of had the steam back in the engine. But
so whatever happened to Scott?
He's no longer on this earth.
Okay.
So this is just, I don't know exactly what happened, but he was involved. Little did I know that when I was friends with him towards the end of our friendship, his big company that he had was going tits up. And his stock prices, he was traded on the NASDAQ. His stock prices went from, $30 a share down to 0.000001 cent a share.
Wow.
Yeah. What happened there, I have no idea. But what I found out later is he was selling voiceover IP to Russia. And this is at like 2001.
Okay.
So brand new technology at the time. And he was on top of it. Well, he was doing that via shell companies and screwing a lot of people out of a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know this for sure, but I think he was offed by somebody. I really do, but they say he took too many pills, or I don't know exactly what happened, but he had investigations in on him, and I had no idea about any of this stuff.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So he probably stabbed himself 7 times in the back, shot himself twice in the chest.
It was through a drug of some type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. He had a medicine cabinet that would make you just, what the hell? It was crazy. That's like, dude. There's so much intertwined with this.
That was my thought. It's like, okay, he grabs the money. It's like, if he's that rich, why is he grabbing
right
a finite sum? But
right.
that sums it up.
Yeah, he was messing with some bad people.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never knew about any of this because, like I said, there was always a reverence surrounding your name, and I'm like, okay, I don't think this dude's as cool as everybody says.
Wow.
I met you the first time, and I'm like, man, that's Marty.
Was this before we jammed together?
Yeah, this is before we jammed. So I was
like, you dick, you're saying that about me after we jammed?
Oh,
fucker.
So before that, I went over and I met you once, and I'm like, man, and everyone's like, yeah, Marty's the coolest dude ever. He's such a nice guy. And I met you, and you must have been in an off mood or something, and you were just a dick. And I'm like,
I have resting bitch face a lot of times.
You did, and you were real short with me, and I'm like,
I don't remember meeting you, dude. I'm sorry.
I get it.
I don't remember meeting you.
Dick.
Was this when you were in high school?
Yeah, this was when I was younger, yeah.
Was it at the school?
Yeah, it was at the school. It was for pop concert, coincidentally.
But I was never at the school for pop concert.
Or it was band stock or...
Oh, band stock.
Yeah, it was band stock. You were playing with a band called Hip Pocket.
Yeah.
And you were packing up or something. And
Oh, dude, pack up. I'm in work mode.
you were totally, because
Yeah, that doesn't count.
everyone's like, Marty's so cool, and I'm like, hey Marty, if you need anything, I'm like, let me know. I'm here to help. I'd love to help you pack up or anything if you need it. And you were just like, said some real short response. I'm like, okay. And I went to my teacher at the time, and I'm like, you said Marty was this great guy and this great guitar player. I said, I don't know. I said I said the Purple Rain solo was not that good, and I said,
Wow.
and I just like and then I was working at Jerry's at the time, and I'm like, and they're like, man, Marty's just like the nicest guy. I'm like, that dude's a dick. And
Wow.
they're like, no. And Nick Cohen was like, yeah, Marty's just Marty's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. He's like,
Huh.
I find that hard to believe. And then I finally met you, and I'm like, this guy's actually pretty awesome.
Huh.
I regret everything I said to everybody about him.
Wow, you owe me big time.
Yeah, apparently, because I went to Jeff Sandbaum too, at Jeff Sandbaum Guitar Company, and I'm like, yeah, Marty. I said, and he's the one that's like, yeah, Marty's the shit, man. He's got a like he is
Sandbox.
yeah. Sandbaum's a cool dude.
Yeah, that's funny because when I hear that from a lot of people, that when I'm in work mode, you don't bother me. Like packing up, or
Yeah.
like when I'm at a gig or in here, like, yeah.
Because I was playing guitar all throughout. Yeah, I was playing guitar throughout high school, so I was like super excited. I'm like this is Marty Cheyka. But nah, I mean, we
Wow.
ended up jamming at Jerry's because I was
I
playing.
remember that specifically. I don't remember
Yeah.
talking to you at Bandstock though.
You were in work mode, man,
Yeah. See, there you have it.
or resting bitch mode. But
Yes, resting bitch face mode.
But no, I remember jamming with you. What blew my mind, because you see people that are good at their craft, and I'd say that about like my brother, or I mean, there's a few of my clients that you can just tell, like, and those are the people I like working with, because you could tell there's people that just know their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and when they do that, they tap into something. Like my brother with cooking, he decides he wants to start doing it in high school, goes right to the top of the state,
Mm-hmm.
goes up to national first year
Wow.
or second year or something, but he just gets it. I look at one of my clients, the guy's a doc, and he goes into it and he just adjusts your body. He's a chiropractor, and he'll go in. He's like, okay, well, it needs to go to this bone, to that bone, and he'll just be having a conversation with you, working on it, and he just
Rupel?
knows it. No,
Oh,
nah,
Rupel's the bomb, dude.
I
love
like
Rupel.
Dr. Steve. He's cool.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Grant Drager of Integrated Pain Solutions.
Okay. I don't
He's
know him.
cool because in the past he worked on different players from the NFL and
Okay.
the NBA. So like,
Yeah.
Dr.
Cool.
Grant's the man when it comes down to it.
Cool.
Steve's cool. Like the
Yeah.
guy's he's got 3 world records. And,
Yeah, Guinness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got
The most amount of T-shirts.
and he's got Ironmans.
Oh, does he really?
Oh yeah, he's got an Ironman or 2 under his belt.
Nice.
Maybe a couple at this point.
Wow.
Which, yeah, Dr. Grant's typically my go-to, and I just like you though. It was crazy because I sat down and I'm like, I took lessons from Jeff Sandbaum way back when,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, I gotta. Everyone's like, you gotta take a lesson with Marty. I didn't really get it, but I was jamming with you at Jerry's Music. I had to go play a gig for the YMCA,
Okay.
some charity gig, so it didn't pay anything, and people don't really tip at those events.
Mhm.
But you got in there, and I was playing, and you just like identified everything that I was doing,
Oh, cool.
and it blew my mind. And I'd play different after that, but it showed me that you knew your shit. And
I was just faking it.
yeah, exactly. I saw this on YouTube one time.
No, I struggle all the time with what we were doing.
Mhm.
It's like I still don't have a handle on it.
Really?
No. And then I reevaluate like after a show, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm probably not gonna play anymore. Play a shit solo or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Yeah, when I'm in here, like at the console, whatever, my feet up, my guitar, I play the best things in the world. It's just awesome. I'm like, yep, I got a handle on it. Then come to a live show, it's just like all goes to shit.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'm the opposite.
Really?
I go to a live show. I cloud it really well, but I've got anxiety. It doesn't look like it. People have no clue. It's just because I push through it. But I'll get on stage, and when I have to do a guitar solo, I had it happen where I was playing with this one band, and they're like, we're going to do Freebird. And I didn't really listen to the song through because I'm like, okay, it's these chords, it's basic. So I kick into it, and I forgot at the end there's that big solo. So he goes, "Won't you fly, free bird?" And I'm like, "Okay, solo." And I just kick into it, and I just blacked out. I don't remember anything from it. I get done with it, and I remember I was doing like this hammer-on technique or something. We close out the song, and everyone walks up to me. They're like, "That's the best guitar solo I've ever heard. That was amazing."
Nice.
The band was like, "That was fantastic." I couldn't tell you what I did,
Right.
what I played. I lost 2-3 minutes of my life.
Yeah, I've had those moments. Those are cool.
Oh, those are awesome.
Yeah, they don't happen often, but
No, they don't.
yeah, they're fun.
What sucks though is nobody ever gets those moments on video.
Right.
So it's like
It
you
happens
can't.
in the studio too. That's why you
Really?
always have record
Huh.
on the studio. Always recording. Especially when you get older, you can't remember shit. So it's like you'll play this ripping cool thing. You're like, I have no idea what I just played.
You admitting you're old?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Seasoned.
Seasoned, is that what they call it now?
Seasoned.
A little salt and pepper.
Yeah. More salt and pepper.
Man.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, one of the reason I want to talk to you was, I think it's cool how there's a lot of people that first don't understand how the music industry works, because it's a game that gets played, and it gets corporate once you get into the thick of it. And there's all these stories of these bands that have fantastic talent. Like that movie Almost Famous was about that one band. They have all this talent, they're doing great, and then once you get corporate execs involved and you get too many chefs in the kitchen, or
Right.
it can go down the drain. But
Right.
it's really interesting because even the way that they pay it, you get a lump sum contract. Sometimes you got to pay it back, and then you have a per diem, so you get paid for doing the work that you're doing. But then there's always strings attached.
Right.
But then you get out of that. It's cool because you started your own business, and I mean, you look like you're happy.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Now
honestly.
working with the Russian mob.
Right. I steered clear
Too
of that.
soon?
Yeah. No, not too soon. That's 20 years ago. 20.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, and a lot of people, like kids or younger artists or whatever, are aspiring to get a deal. And like you were mentioning, that's the least thing you would want ever in your career. Because the way a normal thing works is that if you say, just for rough numbers, if you sign a $1 million deal with A and B Records, and you sign a deal for, we'll say, 12 points, that means you're going to get 12% of every record sale, right?
Yep.
You've borrowed $1 million, and you're only getting 12% of every record sold. Well, you have to give 3 points of that to your producer usually. So now you're down to 9 points of every record sold that you're making money on. The thing is you've borrowed $1 million from the record label, but you're not paying back the record label on every record sold for the amount the record sold. You're paying back the label off of 9 points. So
they make their money twice over.
Oh, 90% over. You're basically, you're paying back $1 million debt on 91% interest for the most. I mean, for easy math.
Yeah.
So that's the furthest thing you want to be involved in. And like our deal was, I want to say we got an 18-point deal, which was no one had ever heard of something like that. That was just ridiculous. And we retained, by the end of it all, we retained 15 points of it, and all of our publishing and everything.
Not bad.
Oh, unheard
just
of.
so people know, with the publishing though, people like Michael Jackson bought out like the Beatles publishing. That's all the rights that if a song gets used in a commercial, an advertisement, anytime it's used, there's a royalty that gets paid back. And the publishing is almost like an investment where it makes money annually. For sure.
I mean, any spin on in the elevator at a club, these clubs and all these, anyone that uses music to generate a profit in any way has to pay licensing fees, and they're getting paid on that all the time. I don't even know what the Michael Jackson, what was it, like 400 million or something like that?
So I heard that with Michael Jackson, he had one of the largest publishing categories or libraries in the world. and because he
'Cause
bought
he had the Beatles, didn't
he
he?
had the Beatles and he
Yeah.
had Paul McCartney's. Because Paul McCartney's like, if you want to make some money, he said buy the publishing.
Yeah.
So, well, they were recording Ebony and Ivory and Say Say Say. Was that the other one? Say
remember-
Say Say. Yeah.
Remember Ebony and Ivory, but not Say Say Say.
Oh, I think they were like peddling some stuff in a music video
Mm.
in the Wild West.
Hmm.
But essentially, he owned the categories, and a lot of speculation where people say that he was taken out or he didn't really die. When people speculate about that, it's all because he had such a large publishing category or library. He was making so much money in addition to the Beatles. Like Eminem was a great example. Went over and said talk trash about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson bought all his publishing.
Mm.
So every time Eminem played out live, since he didn't own his publishing, he had to pay Michael Jackson.
Wow.
It's one thing to lose, but it's another thing to like
Yeah. Rub
keep losing.
salt in the wound.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy.
But well, yeah. Well, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you
Yeah.
taking the time to do this.
Thanks for having me.
You betcha.
Just fun.
Yeah.
Is that it? Is that it? That's all we got?
I mean, we keep going, but
No, it's fun. I wouldn't have it any other way as far as where I'm at right now. I make my own hours. That's good.
So what do you say to people that are working a 9 to 5?
I'm sorry. No, I mean honestly, I that's the weird thing is like I'll have weeks and days or whatever where it's like 18 hours, 20 hours,
Mhm.
it's crazy hours. But then some days, some weeks, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You know. So the stress is there as far as where's the next check coming from or
Mm.
when is the next check coming. That kind of sucks, but the freedom and the ability to just make my own hours is you can't beat that.
Yeah, but I mean, even when you're working the 18-hour days, I find as you're working towards something for you. There's something
Oh,
at
totally.
the end of that 18
Right.
hours, you got something at
Right.
the end of the day that nobody can take away from you.
Right. And that's just it. I mean, if it's integrity or or building your business, either way,
Yeah.
work for yourself, you know?
Mhm.
It's totally worth it.
That's one of the biggest things that I mean, my first business was so I got in a car accident. Long story short.
Were you drunk?
No, I
Okay.
was I was definitely under the legal age.
Oh, okay.
Under the legal age to drive. But I remember my brain got something and it's like so for a little while I was like learning all these different things just cuz like my brain had a hard time keeping up with like I had to go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up learning how to tie balloon animals.
Tie
So
balloon animals?
I know it's bizarre. So my first business was tying balloon animals and dressing up as a clown.
No shit.
Yeah. So I was like
That's awesome.
12 or 13.
Oh,
And-
okay. I thought
oh,
this
yeah.
was like in high school or
Well,
something.
last year, but I used to dress up as I got like a clown outfit like for Halloween and like grabbed it, threw it on, learned how to tie balloon animals, and did that all throughout middle school. I would do
Wow.
events and get paid to do it, like $300 a
That's
time.
good dough.
Oh, back then you could buy things with it. Like
Yeah.
nowadays, $300 doesn't go very far.
Right.
Back then, I mean, you could buy lunch for $3, $4, $5 from Burger King.
Right.
But nah, that was my first business, and I ended up working jobs after that. It was the hardest thing because I started working at Culver's,
Okay.
and I was like, you know what, it's okay, but everyone's just talking about how they don't like their life and how they're, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if you don't like it, change it. Like and there were
Right.
people there that enjoyed what they did,
Right.
and then I went from that to working a couple other places, and
Mm.
I had a hard time sticking around jobs, and then when I ended up leaving for Indiana. That was
Mhm.
when it was kind of dawned on me. It's like, this is kind of cool. I had these scheduled hours I got to be there. I've got my own desk. I can do whatever I want. I can build whoever I want.
Mm.
So for the first 3 months, I was the first person there in the morning most days, and I was always the last one to leave in the company.
Yeah.
So I'd be like waving goodbye to like night shift security,
Right.
like walking out the locked doors.
Huh.
And it was crazy, but I came back and I was like, I'm not sure what I want to do. And starting a business, it's not as complex as people think. I mean,
Not at all.
the accounting is crazy,
Right.
but
Even then,
hard.
it's not. It depends how you structure things, I guess. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's not work if you love doing it.
true.
I I mean, it is work, but you don't look at it that way.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at a lot of the projects I do with people, and it's so much fun. I mean, to see like that, like for me, I do a lot of marketing and a lot of consulting in addition to videos or websites or anything else. But a lot of that, there's always a fact finding conversation to say, okay, what are you doing? And getting to take a look at all these different businesses and say, oh, well, I want to do this business.
Right.
Because you got the people that, if they're coming to me for marketing, they're at a point in their business that they find that there's something else they're seeing that they want to get to. They haven't stopped and hit a brick wall, or they have and they need to get over it.
Right.
But they see something that they want to get to, and it's really cool because you sit down and have those conversations. It's like, well, here's where I see this going, and I just get to go, let's go, you know. But
yeah,
like you said, I mean, starting a business is, if you're working a 9 to 5, the hardest thing I had though was I was working one job. I'd love to get your take on it. There were all these people, and they just there were guys that had realistic dreams. It wasn't something where it's like, I want to be a mega rock star, which is possible. But it was something as simple as, I want to buy a CNC machine and I want to make signs.
Right.
CNC machines, $12,000. You can get a loan through like a firm or one of these other places, personal loan. So you'd be like $200 a month. You make a sign. I mean, they're charging for wooden signs or even for just a normal sign, easily $3,000 or up.
Yeah.
So the hardest part that I had to come to terms with is some people just want to grab these dreams. They've got these realistic possibilities, and they put them in a box up on the shelf, and they'll look at it. And then one night they'll be home, they'll crack a beer, they'll turn on the TV, they'll grab this box off the shelf, they'll open it up, and their dream's there, and they'll live it out in their mind for an hour. Grab it, they'll put it back in the shelf and go back into work the next day.
Right. I mean, you have two types of people.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's so many different opportunities to make money. And I've noticed that just with people that I know, it's like, I don't know what it is. They're just scared to just take that first step. You know what I mean? And it's not like that first step is crippling in any way. If they don't make it, it's just maybe that fear of rejection or, you know, whatever it is that they just don't do it. And I don't get it. I'm was never raised that way, or I don't function that way.
Yeah, but the best thing I heard, it's not even like the people being afraid that things won't work or things. It's like, this one guy put it was a CEO on some podcast or something. He said, okay, at a job, he said, can you get fired for something you did? Can you get fired for something you didn't do? Can you get fired for something somebody else did? Could the company close down tomorrow? There's all these ways that you could fall out on your ass. And when you own a business, it's like, yeah, you're holding everything up, but it's up to you if you want to let it. I mean, if something fails, you pivot, you change. I mean, like you could have said, you know what, I'm just building out recording studios in this small fraction of a market in honky-tonk Wisconsin.
Right.
Or say, you know what, there's this opportunity here. I could run sound for this. There's a corporate event. And there's money there, and there's money there. On a bad week, you could make $10,000.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's
crazy.
It's the stuff is there. You know, you just got to adapt, really. And with the advent of more availability and gear,
yeah,
you know, nowadays for recording, I'm not recording as much. So I shouldn't say that. I'm not it's not like I have bands come in to record. Because they can go get a Allen and Heath console, and they got a 32-track little recorder there. I mean, in their minds, they do.
Of course, yeah.
You know, so I think that's changed studio stuff a lot. Whereas mine is my business model for the most part is kind of went more towards singer-songwriter development stuff, where it's it's more of like a one-stop kind of thing where,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I haven't recorded an actual band in probably 10 years.
At least the way I hear it, people, what they pay for is you kind of draw the best out of them.
Yeah,
That's what Sandbomb told me.
the producer vision kind of
Yeah.
thing. I like to think that, you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, you have to change for the times.
Yeah, but I mean, that's at the end of the day, though, that's a skill you've got.
Hopefully.
And when I was talking to people about you, I went to Sandbomb, and Sandbomb was like, "Yeah, we're recording. And we recorded our last album. We're recording our next album with Marty."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Oh," because I was thinking about doing an album at the time. Like, you know what? I want to go into music.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and I was like in high school or something. And he's like, "If you're gonna record with Marty," he's like, "know what you want." He said, "Because studio time is expensive." But he also said he's like Marty will pull the best out of you.
Oh, cool. Thanks,
And
Sandbomb.
yeah,
Sandbox.
we'll see if he watches this.
Yeah.
But
I love Sandbomb.
no, I think, I mean, that's an art in and of itself. If you can grab somebody and say, okay, here's where you want to be, kind of identifying that vision and just
Mhm. Communicating it
Yeah.
is probably the most difficult because people's egos can be crushed. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
When you don't mean to do it, but
Yeah.
I had one band in here that they wanted to be like metal, like hardcore metal.
Mhm.
And it's at the time, this is 15 years ago. Then you had to hit like drums, you had to hit them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You didn't have superior to, I mean, you had
Mhm.
like Steven Slate drums back in the day
Yeah.
that were individual samples that you could lay
Mhm.
on it, but you're not going to go through all that mess unless you're getting paid for it.
Of course.
But they're listening to these big records or whatever, and they want to sound just like it. And the drummer just could not do it. You know, he didn't have the feet for it. His feet and
Mhm.
his hands weren't in sync. So it's not something you can put into Pro Tools and
Fix.
Beat Detective it, you know, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And just I had to tell him, I'm like, dude, you're not the right guy for this. Sorry, you know what I mean?
Oh.
I tried to I didn't want to say it that way, but explaining it to him on a timeline, saying
Mhm.
this needs to change because I can't make it sound that way without you being
Mhm.
this capable, you know?
Yeah.
And that sucks having to do that. I've had people where it's just like
Sounds like a tough conversation.
it is, and these people generally want to be a rock star or
Mhm.
to do the best recording that they can, and it's just like you got to cut it to them. I mean, who else is going to do it? You know, they can
Yeah.
spend tons of money with you, and you
Mhm.
can milk them for every dollar they got, but you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
That's one of the things that I see, because I work with a lot of businesses in a consulting, or it's more like coaching, but everybody says they're a coach nowadays. So I
right,
call it consulting.
right,
But I look at a lot of this, I get brought in and I get paid on an hourly rate. If it runs over, it runs over. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to charge you per the minute, you know? But you're right, because you can either milk them and juice them and say, yeah, you guys could be something. You could be this.
right.
And I look at how many sessions I have with people that they never come back, because I sit down with them. I said, in order for your business to be where you want it to be, this needs to change, that needs to change. You need to get rid of this.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never
They don't
talk
want
to
to do
you.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't, and like you said, for whatever reason, their ego gets in the way, or they just, this vision of what they have and what they just can't let go of it.
Yeah, or they don't want to work for it.
Mhm.
You know,
Which is a shame.
Yeah, I know. Immediate freaking gratitude and
Mhm.
or immediate. I don't know what the word for it is, but
Immediate gratification or
yeah,
something.
gratification. There you go. I've seen that so much. I just come from a different camp. You know, back
Mhm.
like when I was recording in high school, it was reel to reels.
Mhm.
Remember those?
I've seen them in
You
museums.
You know what I mean? So I was like right at the tail, like when I was playing and recording, starting, I was right at the tail end of analog. So you had to, I mean, you couldn't just punch in a little part
Yeah.
and copy it, and you know what I mean? You had
Mhm.
to play your freaking instrument, and it had to be
Mhm.
what you were putting on tape was what was going to be on tape. So
You couldn't just say you messed up a note and you got to replace it.
Right. I mean,
Can't do
and you
that.
could punch in spots,
Come
but
on.
not like today.
No.
You know, today you can assemble a song off of a freaking chord. You know,
Mhm.
which is cool. I mean, you know, more power to people who want to sit down and do it. But there's a lot of people that hear. I mean, that's my. I've seen so many people, singers
Mhm.
that are perfect. Like Jaden will come in here and
Mhm.
sing for me, and her intervals are just they're ridiculous.
No kidding.
I mean, like spot on.
Mhm.
It's freaky weird. I've seen that from several people. I'm like, where the hell? How is this happening? Because there were not
Mhm.
singers, with the exception of a couple back in the day.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of all the kids listening to tuned music. That it's just
Hmm.
like back in the day when I was listening to
Yeah.
music. I'm not a good singer at all, but when I was listening to music, there was a natural, um, like when you hit a pitch, you're not right on the pitch.
Mm-mm.
There's a gradual curve up to the pitch, or there's a um a brief like microsecond where it falls sharp and then comes back down. There's
Mhm.
just the way the voice works.
Yeah.
Whereas that's the stuff you heard on records, even though you
Mhm.
didn't know you were hearing it. You heard it on records, and your voice emulated it, and all the
Mhm.
other voices emulated it. Whereas in the past 20 years, everything is so perfectly tuned
Mhm.
that that's what the kids are listening to, and they're able to do it. It's just like an evolution in their voice.
Hmm.
And I think I could be wrong, but I think that's a thing, because the ability to sing perfectly, and I can see it in Melodyne when Jaden sings.
Yeah.
It's like right there, right there, right there, right there.
I never thought of it like that.
It's weird, dude. I think about it a little bit. I think there's some merit to it, because
I agree because it's. I mean, I think there's some merit to it because what blew my mind was when I got in the room with different speaker companies and things like that. A lot of them don't say pull up Steely Dan or pull up the Beatles.
right,
It's pull up Dua Lipa or Taylor
right.
Swift's new album. So you've got these like
Yep.
50, 60-year-old dudes that are like, man, this Taylor Swift album.
Yeah.
And you're like,
No.
yeah,
No.
something's wrong.
Right.
But you listen to it, and like you said, everything is just perfect. And partly because the record labels are like, they hire the best of the best and they bring in the robots.
Right.
I'll call them. I mean, the guys that they never have a bad project.
Right.
All their projects are spot on.
But the thing is that's what they're guilty of,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And coming back to crushing someone's dreams of
Mm-hmm.
wanting to become a musician, they're so used to hearing everything so perfect, and they don't know. I mean, it still takes talent to get great projects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they're so used to hearing everything so perfect that they think they can do it, and
Mm-hmm.
just some of them can't.
Yeah. And part of it though is the creative aspect. Because I gotta defend the guys a little bit, and I know it's like defending the devil here in most circles,
Mm.
but I look at it and how many times I see these creative guys come out and they're like, "Hey, I've got this song, man. I just like I'm not gonna say the guy's name. You probably won't even watch this, but he came in while we were working on a buddy of mine's album, and he just said, "Man, he's like, you got to listen to this album I've been putting together." He's like, "It's like a journey." He's like, "The first song starts you out here, and the last song of the album puts you here."
Mm.
And we're like, "Okay," and he starts playing it. It sucked. Nobody would tell him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Man," he's like, I think I got something here."
Yeah.
And the hard part is, like you said, I mean, you don't have people that are going to say, well, to make it commercially accessible, to make it so people actually want to listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
you got to take and do all these different things. And it comes down to it. In the corporate world, it's more about saying, okay, how can we make this easily accessible to the masses
Mm-hmm.
and make it something that people are going to like? Like if they like Taylor Swift right now, we need another Taylor Swift.
Right.
As opposed to a producer saying, in order for this to be accessible to anybody, we just have to change these couple things.
Sure. Yeah. But do you want to pay for it? Right?
That's true.
So,
I was going to go get a record deal and pay it off over 25 years.
right. I mean, that's why the Dixie Chicks went belly up.
Huh.
because they couldn't pay back their label, and the manager was taking all their money.
No
But
kidding.
they sold tons of records.
So how long did it take you to pay back the?
Because we did. I shouldn't even say this because it's not. We didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
It was considered a forgiven debt because the record never came out.
Really?
Yep.
So if the record would have come out, you guys.
Then we would have been probably still paying it back. I mean, we wouldn't have been because our contract would be done with, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So they blew a bunch of money for nothing for the most part.
Just to get caught up in politics and bureaucracy.
Yeah. If I played nice, I mean, if I played along, it would have been probably really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I was a punk and I knew everything.
Still do, apparently.
I guess so. I'm just so damn smart.
Smartest guy you know, right?
Right, exactly.
There was this one guy, he looked in the room, he's like, I'm the most humble guy I know.
Right.
This one dude starts looking at me and said, "You are so full of shit."
Mm-hmm.
But no, like that's interesting. And I like getting your perspective on it. I think it's cool because I do think you made a blend between the creative aspect and actually running a business.
Right.
And there's so many people that have a hard time with that. And there's so many people that it's like, okay, pass off the responsibility of the business stuff if you can't, if you're just in the creative zone.
Right.
Like a musician trusts a producer to say, okay, I've got this guitar solo.
It's difficult.
It is.
Yeah.
But you look at all these people that are so much better off for it. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, as much as you don't think they were
Right.
ever better off.
Right.
And you look at all these business owners, it's like, listen, just take somebody's advice. Because there's all these guys that you just want to, you find a mentor, you find somebody that says, you know what, here's what you got to look at.
Right.
And understand your strengths. And then
Yeah.
you're unstoppable.
Yeah. I get it for sure. Yeah. I don't think I couldn't relinquish power like that.
Really?
Mm-mm. I'm not a control freak, but I would have a hard time doing that. Only because I'm doing so many different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I was like a one set business, like I was just a studio, then I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'd say, I need someone to help me do this or whatever. I would totally get that. But I like that I'm never doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's always different. So
I think that's one of the coolest things because it's one of the things I love is you get to try everything.
Mhm.
You get to see everything, and you're not going in. And I mean, no offense to anybody that loves their job. If you love your job,
yeah,
by all means, you got to find what you want to do in life. But if you're gonna go home and complain about your job or complain about this or that, and it's the worst thing you've ever happened. It's kind of like when guys talk about their wives, like, oh, the old ball and chain. It's like,
right,
get a divorce.
right.
Yeah,
exactly. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Oh, the damn wife.
And with like the 9 to 5s, it's like, but like you said, you get to do something different.
Yeah.
Instead of walking in, punching the clock, going up to your desk, sitting there 8 hours later, you walk back down. Oh, yeah.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I do enough time in front of the computer monitor. I'm going nuts, in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Drives me up a wall. And I can be working on the coolest thing, but my body just hates sitting in that one spot. That's why doing like install stuff with Kent is just, it's awesome. Because you're lugging stuff around and you're hanging stuff and, you know what I mean, working.
Different place each time, too.
Yep. And different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're hanging this piece all the time.
Yeah.
Or wiring this piece all the time. It's always different. So you learn about it,
Oh, yeah.
It's cool.
That's one of the things that, and I've got to geek out for a second. I mean, I look at, like, when I get to sit down, it's so cool to identify the market trends with these different businesses, and people are like, yeah, you're a geek.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but you take a look and you get to see, okay, well, if you're making money on this, you're not making money at that. This ain't adding up, and getting to look at all this stuff, it's like, it's all these new puzzles, and it's not necessarily a math problem. But like you said, you get to keep using your same expertise, but it's applied in so many different ways.
Right.
That one day you're doing acoustics, and the next day you're hanging PA speakers, then you're doing trussing.
Right.
Then you're doing some boring stage work. Who knows?
Right. And then cutting a vocal track.
Yeah.
Right. Or mixing whatever. Yeah. It's weird, but it's cool.
Touring in Japan next week.
There you go.
You ever toured out of country?
No. I won't fly anymore
Like in general?
in general, unless it's private. On my private jet, I take my private jet.
You bougie son of a gun.
Yeah. No, I won't. Flying's a pain in the ass.
Why?
I got stories. It's too long. No, I like driving, honestly. I would drive to the West Coast in a second versus flying.
In a Bentley?
Anything. I just love seeing the countryside.
Huh.
Yep.
I'm totally different.
Really?
I mean, I'll drive somewhere just to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, if I want to get somewhere, $200 flight, just a cheap one. I'll grab my backpack and I'll go.
Yeah, not me. Nah.
Yeah, but flying is cool because
Whoops.
I love getting the chance to meet the people. I mean, the only person you're meeting.
See, I don't like people, so.
You stupid son of a gun. I look at even just I was out in New Jersey a couple weeks ago, and the people I got to meet was absolutely astonishing.
Oh, sure.
And I'm very much a people person.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you'll sit in a cold basement chained up and love it,
Right.
I'm the kind of guy that if I don't have people, man, you'll see the decline.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't know, it's crazy to see that because when I was over there, I met this one guy who I'm hoping to have on the podcast, and he's a CEO of a really cool company, and we were chatting about he's going to Chicago to work on these deals with this for his business. He's working with larger entities, and he got to walk me through here's the relationships I have with them, and here's how I work with them, and it's like wow. And I was talking to this one kid who his parents own an IT company down in Puerto Rico. He moved to the U.S. and he lives in New York and loves it. Got to grab dinner with this random app developer because we were sitting together on the plane. And I said, you know what? I haven't eaten yet. Let's grab dinner. I said, you want to go? He's like, I'd prefer we stay in the airport. I'm like, okay. So we ended up just sitting eating burritos for an hour and a half. And I think that's cool. I mean, if you're meeting new people in the car when you're driving, there's something wrong.
Right. Yeah, that's funny.
Oh, man.
No, I get it. Meeting people is cool. I don't like a lot of people. Like being cooped up in a plane. No, not at all.
So how do you do gigs? Is that just the work mode where you just...
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay.
And I'm on a stage, so I don't have to deal with anyone.
Yeah, but after the show, guys are walking up, man, that's the best damn solo I've ever heard
honestly,
in my life.
I'm in that's where, oh, he's a dick. That's where that comes in, because soon as I'm done, I'm working, load out.
No kidding. That explains it.
Totally. I don't sit and hang out and BS, have a beer with anyone. And that's definitely a fault. I should embrace it more, but I don't.
What is it, though?
I don't know.
It's
not like I'm afraid of people or anything.
Yeah.
It's just it's been a long day. I don't want it to be any longer. I want to get my stuff together and go. Really?
And you just call it quits.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. I was never one to...
So how do you network? Is my question, because me, myself, I'll walk into a room and I'm like, okay, who can I start a conversation with? And I'll work my way around the room because I enjoy it. How do you network?
I don't really.
But you know so many people.
I think it's just with age, honestly. I don't ever go out and try to meet a individual person or any intention of meeting someone.
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know. I meet enough people in what I do already, I guess. And I don't want to make it sound like I don't need to meet people. It's not meant that way at all. I just don't go off or don't go after it. That's weird now that you make light of that.
Because that's one thing. I see that in different people.
I got my homies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I hang with, and I'm good with that.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, is you get around a lot. Not in any
I'm not a
explicit...
whore. Come on now.
Yeah, I'm really implying that I want you, Marty. But no, I look at it. There's people like me that'll walk in a room. It's like, okay, it's enjoyable to talk to people, get to hear stories. And it was one of the biggest things when I was out at Tony Robbins. I got a text from one of the guys. He's like, it's crazy. He's like, none of us would have talked to each other if it wasn't for you. Because I grabbed the guy next to me, started talking to him, introduced him to the person in front of me, introduced those to the person next to us. And then in the couple next to us, then introduced him to the guy above us later on in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to a point where like, hey, partner up. I'm like, you're partnering with him. You're partnering.
Nice.
And people were, I wasn't people didn't know I was doing it.
Yeah.
This one guy was the only one who saw it. And he's like, I saw what you did. And he's like, but it's what feels good for me. But there's guys like you that's like, yeah, I'm good. But it's not, and it's crazy because some of you guys just, it's not even that you guys don't want to talk to people. So you're like, okay, I don't feel like doing small talk. I could rather work.
Yeah.
And it's,
For the most part.
it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that with different people.
I'm just as bad as it sounds, I'm more of like you keep a close knit. I'm willing to let people in totally, but I have a close knit group of people that I chum with, and I like to keep it that way.
Is that why you had to pat me down when I walked in?
It is.
Okay.
And the full anal cavity search, and
Yeah.
that's
I was
why.
curious.
I get the rubber gloves at the door with the KY
Next to the metal detector.
KY dispenser. That's so bad. Don't put that on there.
But no, I think it's interesting because I think networking's a big component that
it's huge.
Yeah, but most people don't. The hard part is when you look at it as networking.
Mm-hmm.
It really isn't. It's just meeting people, developing a relationship.
I look at relationships.
Yeah.
And the relationships that I've had, I've built over years and years and years, like Sam Baum and people like that I've just known forever. I didn't go out looking for him. It's just I knew him, and he's comfortable. You know what I mean? I trust him.
Yeah.
And there's
I'm not
few
sure
people
I trust him.
and there's a few people like that you don't got to worry about it. And I'd rather keep those people than try to find other people. You know.
But a lot of those guys, you're putting yourself in an environment that you're not even that you're saying, I'm going to a networking event, I'm going to go network with people, or I'm going to an event. It's just you meet people by putting yourself
totally
out there.
Yeah, totally. I get it. Yeah. I should do more of it. I really should. I would probably be busier, but I kind of feel like I got it. I have enough with the people that I know that this person talks to that person, this person talks to that person, all that stuff that you kind of make your way around indirectly already.
I could see that.
Yeah. So, but that's one thing I could definitely work on is networking.
So is that your biggest fault?
I got lots of faults. Biggest fault? Let me think about that. Definitely not wanting to network. I don't like to go like on weekends off. I do not want to go out and see a band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The only time I'll go out on a weekend off is if I'm working. If I got a call to mix a band. You know what I mean? Like last minute. That's the only time I'd ever go out. I used to go out a lot, but
party animal.
Not really a party animal, but I would just go out. And then I don't know. It was like basically when I moved back here, we went out a little bit, but not much.
It's something though. I mean, if you're a musician, going to a concert is a whole different experience. And I was texting your guy about it the other day. I sent
my guy,
JJ.
Oh, okay.
I sent JJ a meme, and it was like, yeah, as a producer going to a concert versus a standard person or something, and you're wearing the hearing protection, and you're looking at, well, man, I wonder what they're doing with this, and it's almost more fun to be part of the event, at least in my opinion. It's more fun to be part of the event than it is to just sit and watch and be like, oh,
yeah,
cool. It's like I could be running sound better than this guy. I could get on stage and play the guitar solo.
It's funny because you said that a friend texted me from an event happening in town. I won't say where, but he sent me a screenshot of his phone that said 108 dB A-weighted.
Really?
And this was like 50 feet away. 108 dB. And I was like, what the hell are they doing there? He says it is absolutely brutal where he was at.
Just
So,
for reference, like 112 is an airplane taking off, right?
I don't know the correlations, but
It's insanely loud.
95 to 100 is uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
for me. And I usually mix like 95 at, I'll try to do 95 at 80 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
That's comfortable for me. It's a little loud up front for some folks, but 108, that's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. No way.
A lot of those guys, though, they just. The hard part, though, is being in a place like Wisconsin. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. Like I look at like the acoustics as a great example.
Mm-hmm.
People are starting to adapt it,
Mm-hmm.
starting to adopt it and start to bring it into their stuff. Otherwise, it's not really. It takes a while. Like the stuff that gets adapted or adopted in the larger cities, Atlanta, New York,
Mm-hmm.
L.A., Miami, the stuff's there, and you get to kind of see how it progresses, for better or worse. There's things that happen that nothing ever comes of it,
Yeah.
like digital business cards.
I've never even heard of that. What's a digital business card?
You just put it on your phone and you just scan like a QR code.
Oh, okay.
When I was in Indiana, guys were using them when they come in,
Mm-hmm.
and I told my brothers when we were all going out to New Jersey, I said, download it on your phone. I said, people are going to ask for a business card, and chances are they're going to want a digital one, or people are going to give you their digital business card.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, that's so stupid, Tony. I said, you guys all have businesses. I said, up to you.
Yeah.
And all my brothers run successful businesses, except for the youngest one who's in high school. And they go out there, and they're scrambling that night to download it. And one of
Yeah.
them downloads, he's like, yeah, people ask me about it.
Yeah.
But you get to
So are they just carrying a QR code like card with them?
Oh, no,
Where-
it's like you just on your phone, you pull up an app, and it says, here you go, scan the QR code, and it pulls up everything, creates a contact.
So the QR code is on your phone for the
Yep.
other person to scan.
Yep.
I gotcha.
Now Apple has it where you can just put a phone up to another phone,
Yeah.
and it'll share your card,
Right.
or just share your contact.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, but it's cool because Wisconsin being behind the times, it's a blessing and a curse. A lot of the places aren't willing to adopt a lot of the techniques or a lot of the acoustics.
All it takes is one or two
Mhm.
to get it. Then people are like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what's going on with what we're doing is, like once this expo place has the right treatment, a lot of
Mhm.
people are going to see that and be like, oh, yeah, we need that. Totally.
Yeah.
It'll make sense to them. Where it seems to be such voodoo right now,
Yeah.
as weird as that is. But
I kind of like it though, because you get to see how everything progresses everywhere else. Like in
Mhm.
marketing, it's awesome because some of the stuff I'm like, we got to bring this here now. Like, let's go.
yeah,
And some of it, it's like we get to see how it plays out and how it pans out. That if it's complete bullshit out in New York and it's something that gets
Mhm.
adopted and everyone's like, yeah, this didn't work, or it just takes time to refine it. By the time it comes to you and everyone's like through that phase of like the stone ages and they're like, well, what's this thing? Let's take a
Mhm.
look at it. We're not sure how to do it. You can already be like, okay, here's how it's already been adopted.
right.
We can do this here. It's going to work. And we beat everybody to the punch because you don't have to progress through it naturally.
Right.
Like you see with the acoustics. It takes one or two places. And once people are like, okay, I see the application. I get it now.
Mm-hmm.
Every conference room, every office, people are going to be like, we got to
Yeah.
drop these in.
Right. Yeah. Yep, it's fun stuff.
So, well, yeah, I think we're at the 2 hour mark or so.
Are we at 2 hours?
I think so.
Wow. People are actually going to watch that for 2 hours?
We'll see. If you do, comment. But
Comment and like at the bottom.
yeah, comment, like, and subscribe.
Yeah, there you go.
You heard it from him. But thank you so much for watching. And yeah, leave a comment if you like something. Follow us. I guess where can they follow you, Marty?
Nowhere. Remember that whole networking thing? I'm awful at it.
Well, for him, he's on Facebook, Instagram.
Oh, that's right. I am.
He's got a website.
No website.
Not anymore.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Don't want it.
That'll change.
I don't want it.
I'll build a website for you.
I
I'm going to build a
want it.
website for Marty. And I'll link it in the comments.
Thanks.
See
Thanks,
ya.
Tony.
Sweet.
Sweet.
I didn't know that whole story. I knew people talked about you, and I'm like, there's got to be something there.
Oh, the whole record story? Oh, yeah. There's a lot more there.
Because I originally thought about moving to Nashville and